throughout our lives caring for our families, working hard, shopping, connecting, trusting the digital world to just work securely. But in the background, something else is happening. We leave the front door open digitally and physically without a second thought. It's not just hackers in hoodies and ominous shadows. It's also us. Our habits, our shortcuts, our behaviors, but we can change. We can make a difference individually. So the question is, what will you do differently starting today?
Please welcome Matt Topper, Associate Evangelism Director, IT Nation.
Hey everyone, welcome to IT Nation Secure 2025. I'm your host, Matt Topper, sysadmin turned security practitioner turned public speaker turned somehow into event MC and planner. But I wasn't always doing this. Here are some photos from when I was doing this. And you can start with baby Matt up in the corner there. That was my very first day in the IT channel, day 0. Bottom right, or bottom corner, that's a little more recent in my public speaking days. But I am you. I've been in your seat. I've spent time cleaning up broken wiring closets, doing incidents, doing all that stuff. And if you're sitting over in that area, I may have literally been in your seat a couple years ago, sitting at a conference thinking, what can I learn here to bring back to the team? And that perspective is how we shaped everything at this event. What would benefit me if I were still attending? And that's the perspective we use in this year's version. So on the challenge coin, I put a phrase. It means, take it out, it means strengthening security by coming together. And that's what we're all trying to do here. It's not just a motto. This is what IT Nation is all about. We're here to collectively improve our security by individually enhancing our capabilities, by helping each other, by working together, and we're here to have some fun too. So IT Nation isn't just the brand name for our events. It's not just the text on top of the event title. It's a collective with a shared purpose and a shared vision. And it's made up of partners, attendees, speakers, individuals, communities. Every one of you in this room plays a role in making this work. We're all trying to get better collectively, and we're all part of the IT Nation. In fact, even our canine friends are part of IT Nation. Canine for Warriors is our partner charity, and they're the important cause that IT Nation gives supports. One of those causes that we've supported is Canine for Warriors, and I'd like to welcome up Steve with Canine for Warriors.
Thank you, Matt. Hello, my name is Stephen Carmichael, and I am the Director of Corporate Partnerships for Canines for Warriors, and I live every day to serve our mission of ending veteran suicide. Canines was founded by a mom who wanted to save her son who was suffering from PTSD. We were founded in her backyard. She used her backyard to train these dogs, and she used her house to open it up for veterans who needed these service dogs. We do two things really well. We go out into our community and we rescue dogs from shelters, from hoarding cases, and we train those dogs 6 to 8 months to be paired with veterans who suffer from PTSD, they may have a traumatic brain injury, or military sexual trauma. We have 4 locations, one that's just 2 hours north of here in Jacksonville, Florida, and we have 2 locations in San Antonio, Texas as well. We are the nation's leading service dog provider for veterans suffering from PTSD. When we started, Sherry Duvall, our founder, rescued 4 dogs at a time and housed 4 veterans at a time. Today, I'm proud to say, we can serve over 200 dogs at a time, and we can house 20 veterans for our 3-week residential program. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. So, since 2011, we have paired over 1,100 veterans with their service dogs. That's a lot of veterans, that's a lot of dogs, and that's a hell of a lot of dog food. We have put veterans back out into their community. We have put husbands and wives back into their marriages. We've allowed moms and dads to go back into their children's schools and to pick up their kids from school, to go to the doctors with their kids. We have given these veterans the dignity and respect back that they deserve. Thank you. Now, not every single dog that we rescue makes it to be a service dog, because it is hard work. So we have another program called our Station Dog program, and that is where we will train these dogs to be therapy dogs, and we will place them with police or fire stations nationwide, 911 communication centers, or even cool places like Joshua Tree National Park. Their service rangers have one of our therapy dogs that they drive around with all day. Now, we can't do any of this without people like you in this room. And you guys have made something very, very real happen. So I want to bring out somebody very special, Rufus with his trainer, TJ. We really are the ones who let the dog out. That was definitely the wrong song to play, but that's okay. No, so you might recognize Rufus from being out and about today. You might have seen him on this slide, and you might also see him on this next slide. Rufus is your dog. You made this happen. Collectively, over the past year and a half, you guys have raised over $50,000 to sponsor Rufus. So give yourselves a round of applause. Now, I was told to do this, and we could not have done this without Andrea. Andrea called me about, well, give her the biggest round of applause. I don't know where she's at, but, oh, there she is. There's somebody sitting next to her by the name of Sean. His head was too big to fit on this slide, so he also played kind of an important role in this. But I remember taking the call with Andrea about 2.5 years ago. I was sitting in the parking lot of a mall about to go get my phone fixed, and she was like, we want you to do this. And I'm like, yeah, we can drive to Orlando. We can do this. And look what has happened because of this. So Andrea, thank you so much for making this possible. So now, you're a victim of your own success. So get out your phones, and let's save another dog and pair another dog with a veteran who is waiting right now 2 years for their service dogs. I promise you this is a clean QR code to scan. It'll take you directly to our website, shared with IT Nation. And if everybody in this room just gave $10, we would hit our goal of $10,000, which will help us cover the training costs for a veteran to come and live with us for 3 weeks. So from our 1,100 warriors, our 200 staff members, and definitely from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much for your support. Please come by and see us at our lounge over the next 2 days, and have a great conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
See you soon.
Thank you, Steve. So I want to take a minute and give thanks to our sponsors. They're solution partners. They're not just here to sponsor the event, but to contribute to that shared goal we just mentioned, improving security for everyone. So this year, we rewrote the playbook for IT Nation Secure, quite literally. There's a physical copy of it somewhere around here. And We're building on what came before, not completely reinventing everything. Every decision that we made, though, had to go through that lens that we talked about before. Would this have helped me when I was attending the event? Would this have been something that I wanted to go home and share with my team? And let me show you what that led to. So instead of a completely open call for speakers, we assigned to each track a content leader to help pick the selections, an industry SME, gave them full authority to choose what the industry needs to hear right now. Content wasn't filtered or pre-approved, so what they thought we needed to hear. And by the way, I checked this morning, and over 35 of our speakers who are here this year were not here last year. Instead of a completely open call for for the first time, we're introducing an interactive hacking experience to the event. It includes both physical and virtual challenges and the challenge coin. Thank you to MetaCTF for putting it on and to Proofpoint for sponsoring. We have Community Cyber Lounge, so we've added a 100% community-driven session lounge. The communities chose the topics, organized the speakers, did all the grunt work, and had full control over this content. And special thanks to the Tech Degenerates and GTIA for contributing to this. This was tough to get off the ground. And thank you to Sean Ladro as well, who helped with this. We're bringing back the community of communities. We're bringing back the tables that were at IT Nation Connect. You'll be able to see them out in the expo hall. And every one of these communities is interested in participating to our shared vision of helping people help each other and giving a place to do that. Make sure to stop by. Bringing an IR game live to the event. Bob Miller is putting on, during lunch, both days in the interactive breakout rooms that we'll talk about in a second, IR game. If you've never watched one or been to one, this is an opportunity to have some fun and learn about incident response and to see people that you know in the industry confirm that we don't know everything either. How to go through an event, what that looks like, and have some understanding about what to do when it happens to you. So thank you, Bob, for putting that on for us. I remember thinking about how much more could we get into during longer sessions if we could really go deep into something. Well, this year, we're going to find out. Our technical breakouts are extended length, hands-on workshops that dive deep into specific topics in real time. And these are real things. They're not just product demos. They're not just ways to get exposure to something. These are things that we all want to see and learn about. Piloted a new speaker program this year, bringing fresh voices. 2 first-time speakers got expert coaching over a period of weeks to take their concept from idea to polished talk. I would have loved this before my speaking presentation, and quite frankly, the audience might have loved for me to go through it as well. No arguments there. We're thrilled to welcome Neil Weiler, also known as Grifter, who's here to talk about security on a hostile network at Black Hat. Later on, we'll have a session about how to take the lessons from that and operationalize them in your own business. And finally, before I hand things off, just a quick reminder to download the mobile app. Steve already stole my QR code joke, but this is a safe QR code. If you haven't already, it's your guide to sessions, map of the event, and updates of things that are going on during the event. Now, please join me in welcoming EVP of IT Nation and Service Leadership, Peter Kujawa.
Hello, IT Nation Secure 2025. Welcome. On behalf of the entire IT Nation team, I'd like to welcome you. We can't tell you how excited we are to have everybody here. And before we get in, a huge thank you to Matt Topper What you may not realize, Matt mentioned that he's the MC and the host. What Matt didn't mention is he's also, in our terms, the extreme owner of the event, which means for the last 6 to 8 months, Matt has spent an unbelievable amount of time planning the content strategy, mixing things up, trying to figure out what we can do to improve the event. Our goal with this event, and Matt's goal throughout the course of the year, has been this is going to be the best security event for MSPs on the planet. And the amount of work that Matt's put in to make that a reality has really shown through. So thank you to Matt. I also want to mention one other thing that's really cool. It's not on my slides or wasn't prepared or anything. But while I was backstage, just before I came out, I saw that you all have already raised $3,000 for the Canines for Warriors project. So great job, thank you. And let's keep it coming. Okay, a long way to go for another dog, but we've got time left, so keep going. Prior to joining ConnectWise to run service leadership in 2021, I ran an MSP for 11 years. And I didn't come from the space. Like many of you came out of technical roles and came into the MSP space. I did not. I came out of different roles in business leadership and law. And I joined an MSP in June of 2010 to do a turnaround on this MSP and to get it back to profitability and growth. What I didn't fully bake into the calculation was the role of cybersecurity. I learned quickly, however. Within 1 month of arriving on that job, I found myself sitting at the kitchen table of a husband and wife who were doctors who owned a medical practice that was an up-and-coming medical practice, and they had invested substantially all of their money in this business. And we sat at the kitchen table, myself along with the account manager, and had to hand them a letter telling them that the reason they had hired us to look into their network, the results of that assessment were that they were compromised and that their network was substantially breached. They had a lot of other issues, and here's the price tag it's going to be for you to fix this, and here's how long you're going to be out of commission. I learned on that day how serious and how important what it is that everybody in this room does for businesses and for individuals every day. Okay, so what we do matters. And what we're going to focus on the next couple of days is going to be to help you do that at an even higher level. And while I've been at service leadership since 2021, in December, Manny Rivelo, who you'll hear from later, ConnectWise's CEO, asked me if I would run a new partner communities organization. And that partner community organization has 3 parts that you see here. Advisory councils, and ConnectWise has 7 advisory councils today, getting feedback from different parts of the community. IT Nation, and IT Nation includes 2 parts. IT Nation events, IT Nation Secure, which we're all here for, but also the International IT Nation Connect events, and the big one, our flagship in November, IT Nation Connect. In addition, IT Nation includes the Evolve peer group community, which we'll talk more about in a bit, and service leadership. So we put all 3 of those together. And Manny did this because he recognized how important the communities are to not only to the success of MSPs overall, but to ConnectWise's success. And he wanted me to report to him directly so that he could make sure that we had the resources we needed to continue to drive the communities forward. And he wanted it to be led by somebody who had run an MSP and understood the challenges that MSPs face every day. It's a tough business. It's a great business, but a rewarding business, but it's a tough business. So I said yes to that. Not sure that I had much of a choice, for the record, but said yes to it. And we had 4 goals that we came out of the gate with in December. Number 1 goal is even bigger IT Nation events. It's our belief that our events are the best events in the IT industry. We're biased, but we believe that they are the best. But the goal was to make them even bigger and better. And it was critically important that we do that. There's more and more events every day that seem to be added. The calendar is full of events that MSPs can go to. That creates pressure for attendance, but it also creates pressure for sponsorship. So we knew we needed to up our game and bring more people to our events. And we wanted to make sure that MSPs were excited to come to our events, that we were delivering real value and content. More attendees at our events means not only that more MSPs are successful, they're learning best practices and getting better, but it also means that the solution partners who come to our events and are critically important to these events have more folks that they can engage with. And the solution partners and the MSPs are symbiotic to each other. The MSPs could not do what we all do in this industry without great solution partners, and our solution partner community couldn't thrive without MSP's support. So we need each other. So what did we decide to do? A, we revisited our content delivery, and you heard that from Matt earlier. B, we cut our ticket prices to our events on average 40%. And it's worked. In spite of additional strong competition for events, we are up in attendance year over year from last year. So A, again, thank you for those of you who are here today. Your support, it means everything to IT Nation. But B, if you're an MSP, make sure you spend time with our solution partners. Matt showed you the list of our sponsors. They're here to help you get better. Make sure you take the time to learn about how they can do that for you. Our second goal was to boost the IT Nation Evolve community. We know for a fact, using service leadership data, that Evolve partners grow faster and are more profitable than non-Evolve partners. And speaking of IT Nation Evolve, it's a big year for us. It is 25 years this year of IT Nation Evolve. 25 years of building businesses, legacies, and lives. A shout out to all of you. How many of you, if you could show of hands or stand up, how many of you in the room are IT Nation Evolve company members today? All right. Thank you for your membership. So if you don't know the story by now, Evolve started 25 years ago, 1999. Arlen Sorensen got together with 4 other technology companies in Iowa, and they spent the day talking about a subject that most of us have forgotten about, but Y2K. Talking about how they were going to prepare, what do they think was coming. And they started to meet, and Y2K came and went and was a nothing event. But they realized the benefit of getting together regularly and meeting. And in the summer of 2000, they formed HTG, which is now IT Nation Evolve. Today, 25 years later, we have over 650 companies worldwide that are members of IT Nation Evolve and meeting every quarter. And what you might not realize is that we now have what we call role-based groups. And one of those role-based groups is security. We have two security groups in the US alone that are meeting every quarter to talk about security. And actually, Matt Topper, who was up earlier, is one of our facilitators of those. They get together every quarter and they share what works, and they're able to learn from peers. That's the magic of the peer groups, is you learn and you transform through accountability and through interaction with your peers instead of through the school of hard knocks. Okay, we do have a 15% off for new Evolve members offer. Stop by the Evolve booth. We have it in the Community of Communities area. Then you'll see that tonight. If you take one thing away, I was a member of a peer group for 10 years. It was incredibly transformative to us and to me personally. If you take one thing away from this week, take a look at joining a peer group and move forward with it. You'll never regret it. So our 2 other goals that we had, Community of Communities. I asked Manny early on, are we still committed to being an open ecosystem and Community of Communities? And the answer was, both ConnectWise and IT Nation depend on the open ecosystem. And we have competitors at our events. You'll see them when you go into the expo tonight. We have some that'll be here on stage. Okay? All we ask for in return is reciprocity. If we compete with somebody and we let them come into our event, they let us come into theirs. We think that's only fair. Okay? The last goal we had is more content. Prior to combining these business units, service leadership was doing content. We had evangelists delivering it. IT Nation was also developing content, but we didn't coordinate it at all. Okay? We were each doing our own thing, and it was not efficient. Today, we've combined all of our thought leaders into a single content team, And the proof is there that this is working. In just the last 3 months, we've generated the Service Leadership Compensation Report, which is an annual report. We delivered our first quarterly newsletter in quite a while, 5 years since MSPs saved the world, which tells the important story, an undertold story of what MSPs did to move employees, for millions of employees, for millions of businesses, to work from home at the early days of COVID under tremendous stress, and to help secure those organizations. And we just released our annual profitability report in May. Coming June 12th is our next newsletter, and you can sign up. These are free newsletters. This one is on improving your operational maturity level of security and GRC. Okay. But you know I wouldn't be on stage, those of you who know me and know service leadership, without showing a little bit of data anyway. And so what this chart shows is the organic growth story for managed services going way back. Each of those lines represents 4 quarters over 4 quarter data to show trending. And what you can see is that we've historically had growth around 10 to 14% going way back. Came down a little bit, then COVID hit and it was crazy. Then it came back down. And where are we now? Well, it appears the plane is landing. It's landing around 10% growth, maybe a little bit higher, okay? It's not the end of the world. 10% growth is still double-digit growth, but the craziness of the COVID days appears to be behind us. The good news is, for this event especially, that there is an even greater opportunity that exists in managed security. Our friends at Panelists believe that this represents a $92 billion opportunity with 15% growth, and that growth rate would line up with the growth that we are seeing in service leadership as well. Part of how this is happening is the best in class are selling a whole lot more security as an inclusion in their most fully managed offerings. And this has been the case now for about 5 or 6 years. Okay? For those providers, robust security is not an option. It is not a cafeteria-style add-on. It is a non-negotiable if you are going to do business with us as an MSP. And we are seeing that already going on today with the best in class. So back to our open ecosystem approach. Back in January, Matt came to me with the idea for tonight on our opening night kickoff of getting 4 of the top names in cyber out there today, including folks that compete against each other and compete with ConnectWise, and putting them up on stage on our opening night keynote for a panel. And I looked at Matt and I said, you know, Matt, I like my job. It's kind of fun. Are you crazy? No, actually, once I heard Matt out, I loved the idea. What a great way to find out what's really going on today in the industry and to hear from some different voices. So I talked to Manny and said, Manny, here's what we're thinking of doing, a little bit different approach, and Manny said, let's go. So at this point, I will hand things back to Matt, and thank you again for all of you being here with us over the next couple of days. Enjoy the event, and Matt, let's go.
All right, everybody got their drink? Everybody ready to go?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Here.
Patrick, you get any sleep lately?
Say again?
You get any sleep recently, Patrick?
Not much.
So, I want to talk about a couple of things going on in the industry, and we're going to do this Q&A style quick. So let's just get right to it since we're a little short time-wise. So the first question I have for you, group, is based on the frequency and number of successful targeted things going on against MSPs, is it time for the industry to admit that the current best practices are failing? What's outdated or misunderstood about that?
I don't know. Are we even following them right now? Right? I mean, let's be real, right? You know, I don't want to bogart some of this.
If one of you says MFA, I swear to God, I'm going to make you chug your drink. So,
Yeah, we know that already. Let's go deeper than
I'll start this one. I think something that is really outdated is training. We expect for people to take on security as a role, as a job. And guess what? Security's hard.
Yeah.
It's manageable, but you got to train your people.
You can't just do it on the side.
You can't just do it on the side. You can't give people multiple responsibilities and expect for them to thrive, right? You got to make sure that you segment what it is that they're doing and share the responsibilities amongst the team.
I can't say this enough for everyone in this room. If you're a MSP, operator, technician, owner, if you don't have someone at your organization assigned, I don't know, care if it's 2, 3, 4 hats, but if you don't have a security POC, please have one. And it's not so we can talk to you. It's for these types of conversations. It's to absorb this type of information, to understand understand your world, and the unique, as Kyle and I were talking on backstage, how unique every MSP is different from each other. And we could sit up here and talk about best practices that don't necessarily cover it all.
I mean, I think the best practices are still best for a reason, but you got to use them at the end of the day. And I think that's one of my favorite things I've heard from the audience so far has been, hey, who is that single throat, right? When I asked that question earlier in the hall, it turns out a lot of shops couldn't tell me right then and there, who is their one person. Have you guys heard similar?
Very similar.
Very much so, and I'd go one step further. Explain best practices. Because I'm pretty confident that the partners I've talked to over the years, we follow a CIS, or we follow NIST, or we follow some other pattern. Is that Matt Lee? Wait.
There we go.
But at the end of the day, doing all the controls, putting them all in place is hard. Requires people, requires understanding from the clients who don't want to pay for it. So now what are you going to do? So now whose best practices are we following? Yours or the clients?
Yeah.
That's another iteration of this too, right? Best practices, if they're really the best practices, they're evolving over time. They don't stay stagnant, right? And so something that maybe worked 2 years ago probably doesn't work today, right? Yeah. We're introducing new technologies, we're introducing new processes. Those best practices should be updated with that growth.
And don't get me talking, I mean, we can, again, the pithy marketing statement of the talent shortage, right? But something we were talking about before is the lack of understanding because of the tech sprawl. And again, the unique environments that make up your organizations, right? I don't care if it's an admin that's been there 5 years. Put a security hat on them. Give them give them a little training. Get them ramped up, right? Just have them start documenting some processes.
How many tools, Patrick, does the average MSP use for security in their stack? I mean, I've asked that question before of a lot of you.
Sales told me to tell them they just need one more. That's what I'm supposed to tell the audience. Just one more.
Well, but that's why they're here,
if we're doing product pitches, I mean, we can start slinging that all day, dude.
Because they're going to buy a new shiny penny that's going to solve all the problems, right?
100%, right? Yep. It says which one is outdated or misunderstood. I think the number one I walked away from is maybe who's owning the best practices to me is the most misunderstood.
Who?
Yeah.
Who?
Agreed. All right, let's move on. So you guys have seen MSPs, businesses with numerous incidents. From your vantage point, what are some of the telltale signs that if you walk into an environment that this is an organization that might get popped, this is an MSP that might have some kind of issue? What are some silent alarms that you see?
I think Kyle hit it off in the first section, right? That's who. Who's in charge? Who owns security in your practice?
Yeah.
If it's you, the business owner, fine. But can you really manage your own risk while you're also running the business with payroll and keeping people up to date and making sure Mary can print and everything else that has to happen happens? But nobody's in charge of it in most partners that we talk to. It's like we all own it, so because we all own it, nobody owns it.
Yeah, and I think from my vantage point, right, when I walk into an MSP and I see that they're talking to customers and they have security policies, and I say, well, what are your security policies? And they say, well, we don't have any. Well, how are you developing security policies for a customer if you don't have any internal?
And are they telling
It
customers
starts
to
at
have
home.
them without having any?
Exactly.
I
right?
always, one of the first questions I'll ask, and we do a lot of partner incident response assistance across our base, and I'll say, what can you show me just two SOPs for unauthorized access or ransomware, right? And they kind of look at me sideways. I get it. Hey, what's your incident response plan look like? And they just, again, there are these gaps there, right? And we try to provide them as much, really good best practices. We'll go back to it, right? Here's some templates. But yeah, the fact that they kind of just look sideways and they say, listen, I got a lot of responsibilities. It's on my list. Right?
How often do you see one that's obviously templated, right? They took an incident response.
Oh, give
plan,
a shit if it's templated. Just have a template. Just have it. Have something out there.
And remember when we were pre-gaming, you can have all the templates in the world, right? But when I look at somebody and what's indicating to me if an MSP is skating on thin ice is when I ask you, are you practicing to go to war? Are you training like you're gonna fight?
Yeah.
You nailed that earlier.
Gotta train to fight.
I mean, if we honest to goodness asked, and we don't need hands or anything, but just like in your heart of hearts, when's the last time on Friday you took 2 hours out to rehearse some sort of battle dress situation, some bad day? I bet it wasn't this Friday, and I bet it wasn't the last Friday either.
I'll go back to something I said a couple years ago on the main stage, and a few of my folks are gonna cringe. My second, third week on the job at ConnectWise, we had AWS outage. Happens, every so often. It was obviously a infrastructure issue, and I said, prove it's not a cyber event. So I literally made them run. We had a cloud outage playbook. I said, run it, yep. And they were pushing back. They're like, we know that. I was like, how do you show me data, right? It is that kind of, that discipline. It doesn't take a lot to do that, and even a small MSP can do that, right? And say, listen, let me hit my SIM, let me hit my endpoints, let me talk to some folks, outside of my organization. Are you seeing this? Right?
Yeah.
It's okay to open a conversation with, a fellow MSP or one of your service providers or one of your technology providers. Call them up.
You mentioned that. If you think about the skating on thin ice, it's also asking them who they partner with. Who are you doing business with? Like, who else is in your stack? Do you
what's that depth of the bench?
Yeah, it's the bench, but we can't staff it, so we have to partner it, right? Yep. So who's your backup vendor, right? Number one thing is recovery, right? Beyond that, then who's your incident response team? When's the last time you talked to them? How about your attorney, your insurance agent?
Do you know what incident response providers are on your insurance panel? Do you have their numbers somewhere?
Yeah, I do.
Right? Do you have an outside counsel that speaks cyber? I'll say that one enough. Do you have an outside counsel that understands cyber?
Hey, you mean my corporate attorney that took care of my
I'm
corporation
sure.
stuff? Couldn't handle my...
I'm sure they're going to give you the best cyber advice, 100%.
Well, it's like we talked about earlier, right? If you don't have a business continuity plan, a disaster recovery plan, then you're really skating on thin ice, because it's not a matter of when, right? Or if, it's a matter of when.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yep.
All right. We need a drinking word.
Okay.
Best practices.
Do you need one?
Hey,
Jason
we
Ferguson.
need to play a game every time we say MSP, we take a drink here.
Oh, man.
Where's my guy? There he is. Go get it.
MSP. Oh.
All right, so MSPs are giving advice to clients all over the place, and they often have pretty complex regulatory obligations, and they have complex infrastructure and security programs. What key misunderstandings come up in these environments when they're trying to advise clients on things that may even be too complicated for them to begin with?
I go back to what we were brainstorming earlier. Whoever threw out that commentary when we were just shooting the shit, which sounded along the lines of like, you might know you have to take your client's environment out of productivity to solve an issue. Do they fully understand that's part of what you do? I don't think many people quite realize how big of a misunderstanding that's probably there, and you're probably not explicitly advising enough.
Yes. I can tell you, on the side, when you have to quarantine something, even though you notify them, they're not happy. And that's understandably, I totally get it. I wouldn't be happy on my side, right? But to having that general understanding that if shit hits the fan, hey, I'm gonna press pause on your infrastructure, right? Or whatever your tooling it is, right? And we're gonna communicate to you. And I can't say this enough to MSPs, is let them know when you're going to communicate to them next, because you feed them on a regular basis, they won't get hungry. So.
Well, and how many of them don't know what it's like to go through an incident?
Yep.
The MSP might know, they've been through it with one of their clients, but if they're supporting 100, 150 clients, have they been able to actually relate that, hey, when this happens, you're not going to be back online in 24 hours, right? You're going to go through a process with legal, with insurance, with who knows who else, trying to figure out what happened so that you can make sure it doesn't happen again, as well as make sure that the insurance processes correctly. And I've seen scenarios.
Correctly being the big asterisk, right?
It just goes on and on. I've got friends in here that do incident response, that are here. They're partners of all of ours. And you should talk to them. Understand what it is that really happens on a bad day, because I don't think as MSP owners, unless you've been through it a bunch of times, we don't know, which it was kind of funny. Our conversation today when we were pre-gaming was, what's one of the first questions you're going to ask in the event of an incident? And mine has always been, because I learned this early on, when's your next payroll due?
That's a good one.
Think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Like for the client that's impacted, or for your business, if it's you, and you've got to meet payroll and your team's not getting paid, what does that look like, Will?
People are going to be pretty angry at you.
It's not a good day.
But I think it boils all down to one thing: transparency. And I think that's the biggest thing that I see with MSPs misunderstanding is you have to be very transparent with your customers. This is a group of people that may not know all of the implications of security, and they may just think, well, it's a machine that's on the network that's infected. Why do you have to take down my payroll server, right? They don't understand that full implication. So transparency is important, especially since we're in the trust selling business. If you can't sell security, you should sell trust, right? And that trust comes with transparency from discussing with partners about what it is that they have to face when they have an incident.
And I'll jump in here a little bit, and this might resonate. While that incident is going on, there's a lot that you have to work through before you can share.
Yep.
But it's important to let folks know that, hey, there is a challenge, right? This is what we've done so far, right? And there's going to be more to come. But understand that there's a lot of moving parts to that. There's a lot of legal communications, investigation challenges that are there. But it's okay to pause and say, listen. And then it goes back to what I said. Even if you have just a little bit more to share, that's fine. Or if you have to say the same thing, that we're still working on it, that's fine too. Yep. It's about general understanding. But if obviously reaching out to those who are impacted, let them know, right? And then let the others know, hey, listen, things are okay, right? We're working it. So
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
sorry.
Hey, so we just talked about some misunderstandings, especially around compliance and incident response. What are some things that you see MSPs just aren't getting? What's a misconception around security, and how can we try and debunk that?
That technology can't fix everything. It's true.
Can't?
Just need one more product.
Yeah, one more.
One more.
Yeah.
Sorry, Manny. Sorry. No, it comes back to all of it. It's a people process. It's an ecosystem. It's a people process and technology, obviously. So.
1,000%.
Yeah, when we were talking beforehand, we were saying, I think it's really smart, good technologists or IT people. We don't understand the security side of the world, so we think that, look, what we don't know can hurt us. But, Kyle kind of corrected that and said, it is hurting us.
Yeah, what you don't know is hurting you right now, and that's a little bit of real talk if you think about it. What you don't know in your environment while you're hanging here in Orlando-ish, Florida, is probably hurting your own customer base. So the part that I want to get to,
Everyone's checking their phones.
how can you debunk it though? That's I've been playing on that second, after the comma there.
Right.
Yeah, I think it goes down to, do you know all the assets, all the data locations, all the cloud, all the users,
What version?
all the equipment?
What version?
What version are they on?
Yes.
Do you know everything about the environment before you even try to figure out how to secure it, right? And I think it goes back to a reliable security program, but we don't always know these things, or that shadow IT kicks in. And
Well, it's the most boring thing to talk about on this stage, but it couldn't be more important. Is about attack surface management and configuration and change control, right? I can't stress that enough, right? No when shit is spun up, and when it is, you can put a detection mechanism on it, right?
Yeah.
That's
Attack surface management, attack surface reduction, it's important.
60% of the pain will go away if you can just do that somewhat effectively.
Do you
And what
think
you just said isn't a tool, right?
No, it's a process.
Right.
process and people going
enabled
back
by
to
tools,
Use
but-
tools.
Yeah.
when I was thinking about how to debunk it, the closest thing I came to is, do I know who owns the process? And does somebody actually have the time to do it? And I think that's something that often we, especially when I spend time with my MSP partners, we make a lot of time to work in our businesses, but I don't know if we're quite making the time to work on our businesses and ask some of these type of questions. So if there's anything you're beating up, I got a clap, I appreciate that. I'll send you your check in the mail. But I do think you need to spend a little bit more working time on that business. And I think that's actually how you not just the people and processes, but actually using them at the end of the day.
Yep, absolutely.
yeah, but it's easy to say that, and then we start having reality conversations because the attack surface is expanding. You're adding AI, you're adding cloud, you're adding identity, you're adding all these new areas that this room has to be responsible for, and yet there's not an easy solution for it.
Educate and fish test your customers. If it's not in your even if it's not in your contract, do it for free. It's not. There's so many open source pieces of technology out there you could do it with. You could do it yourself. I can't say that enough, right? Just do that type of testing. So.
To your point, right? Every single time you implement a new piece of technology in your business, guess what you now have to do? Secure that piece of technology in your business, right? And so oftentimes people think, I'm just going to deploy this new technology. It's going to help me from our production side. Our productivity is going to go through the roof. Sales are going to go through the roof. But meanwhile, all those sensitive files and configurations are in some cloud bucket, and you didn't even realize it because you're not focused on that. Right?
Or access management sprawl. You got people. We love to over-provision. We love to over-provision, right? Oh, we got a new technology. Let me give 18 service accounts for that crap, dude.
So Patrick, I spoke at an event in Denver last year. It was the American Legal Association.
You lost me. You just lost me.
So I'm walking through the show floor, and all these legal software companies are now talking about their AI and what they're doing and the whole bit.
Yeah.
And I asked a room full of attorneys and their admins saying, who tested this stuff for security? Who made sure that you were deploying this and you weren't putting all of your information out there into the cloud? And of course, you hear a pin drop. Right. Nobody thinks about these things, which goes back to what you said, Will, which is that new technology. It might not be that you bought a new technology, but a vendor might have a new feature that now needs to be tested and evaluated before you actually turn it on and let it happen.
Yeah.
Hey, so beyond, you guys have seen MSPs bounce back. You've seen some that didn't bounce back after a breach, after they had a big incident. Aside from just having the right tech stack, the right tools in place, what do you see the difference as between the ones who make it and the ones that don't make it after that?
I want to go ahead and lead on this one. I think it's you. Wilfredo said earlier about transparency, but he also mentioned it's the trust that you all build with your actual clients. So when you are missing something, your trust is going a long way. I think a lot of things go back to that. I mean, don't get me wrong, if I was to ask a group of attorneys, I'm sure they couldn't have answered who was the one that was going to, secure the darn thing, but I bet they could have told me who was going to sue you all. All right, or sue them. I think for you all, the trust you have with your clients is often what helps mitigate you when you are in these incidents. That way, it's not your actual client; it's usually your client's clients that start, creating that legal liability for you.
Mm-hmm. And that sounds like a perfect opportunity to think that through. Like, if there's a breach, what's the reverse process there? Okay, how am I going to recover? Who did I partner with beforehand to make sure that when this did happen, that it was minimized or mitigated to the smallest possible attack? And it's finding the right teams and people, whether it be ConnectWise and their backup solutions, or an Arete and their incident response teams, or any of the partners you're using in your space, whether it be us or these guys. Who are those teams that are going to help you on a bad day work through these things? But we talk about this. You have to know 5 things. You got to know who your insurance company is, who your incident response provider is, who the legal is, who your vendors are, and who's going to help you when shit really hits the fan. It's going to happen.
Can't say enough. It could be something very minor or something very major. When the dust settles on it, when you're back up and running, bring in a third party, even if it's someone even if it's another MSP. A lot of times your insurance carrier will ask you to do this.
Is that for credibility, or?
It's for self-awareness. Like you can remediate and mitigate all day long internally. You need a fresh set of eyes on what you did and was it the right thing to do. And obviously this is, we're talking, bad karma situations going on, right? But bring in someone else to just, even if it's something just on the lighter side, depending on your size, right? Have someone validate what you did.
Well, Patrick, I really, this resonates with me because it comes back to training and preparation, right? The last thing you want to do is be in the middle of an incident trying to figure out, who do I call, right? What do I do? And a lot of people have found themselves in this situation. So I always recommend MSP partners. If you've dealt with an incident, it could be the smallest thing in the world. Someone just submitted their password to a phishing site. You reset their password, you move on with your day. An after-action report is probably one of the best things you can do after an incident or a breach, because you can review what went well, what went wrong, and what do we need to improve.
And your insurance carrier will take that as an artifact for consideration for renewals for terms. Trust me, they will.
And you can share it.
You might have your designated contact inside your org.
100%. Onboarding new talent. We all struggle with maintaining talent. When you're bringing them on, your after-action reports are lessons learned. It's also a way to be able, not necessarily with your competition, you don't need to show something that vulnerable, but in environments like this, being able to share how you went through hell turns out to be a really great way to bond and kind of reinforce what you're doing and giving back.
All right, let's move on. So how do you handle, as an MSP, when you hear about big security news, right? Things that make Reddit, things that make big mainstream media sites. Patrick, I'm gonna start with you. What do you do when that comes up?
I reach out to them as soon as worldly possible, and that is what we do and is what we have done, is we've reached out and we've talked to the affected, right? We continue the investigation, we continue the incident response actions, we field their questions, we train partner-facing employees on how to handle them, because they're in a, you tell them something happened to them, they have a lot of questions, right? You have to bifurcate your security staff and have the ones that actually can have conversations with people. By the way, some of those don't exist, and that's a good thing. But you train some of those folks to be able to talk to those folks. Again, it goes back to what I said, is you've as soon as humanly possible, you let them know. But you also let folks know that, hey, that you who wasn't affected is important as well, right? I can't say that enough.
I feel like Matt's coming after you.
Right? So.
Targeting you. Savage.
Right to
Again, you may not be able to give all the details of what's going on, but to the affected, you let them know what happened, right? And you let them know what you're going to do to follow up, and you let them know when you're going to follow up.
What do you guys see internally? Right? We were talking during the pre-show about this. You might have something with a big vuln that requires a decision, right? Like when the Exchange thing happened a couple years ago, you had to all of a sudden be taking down email servers right in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I think it goes back to knowing your environments,
Yeah.
right? We talk about knowing where the data is, who has access to it, all those kinds of things. Now you've got to do it across hundreds of clients. And so where is that information kept?
Is your comment more of like, how do you handle the scale of breaking that news? Or is it just,
Well,
where do you get the info
well,
before
first
you get
is,
to that?
okay, so if it's an Exchange issue, okay, it's an on-prem issue. I have 19 customers that have an on-prem Exchange server.
So understanding
Not
the problem
150,
before
now
breaking
I've narrowed
the
the
news.
focus.
Yeah.
And now I've got to figure out, okay, how many of these were patched, how many of these were not, that already don't have this issue, and then I need to start looking at logs and activities and then put in your crisis management plan, because I've got an SOP for that.
I feel
Because
you.
somebody taught me that years ago when I put it in, so that I knew exactly how I was going to handle that. And oh, by the way, my clients signed off on it, so they knew what to expect, and I had all their insurance information, so I knew which insurance company to call when they had an issue. So there's a lot to it. It doesn't just happen on a 45-minute panel.
But I'll also say it was not hard. Last February when we had the Screen Connect external vulnerability, it was not hard to disable the unpatched version. That was an easy call from leadership all the way down, right? Because it was the right freaking thing to do, right? Because if I was on the other end, that's what I would want.
It's the same issue we had when Kaseya went down back in June 2 years ago, right? And we made the decision as ConnectWise, when I was with ConnectWise at the time, to disconnect the APIs because we didn't know what else was impacted, and they couldn't show data to us. And until they did, we were willing to protect our partners.
And internally at the MSP, though, the question or issue is often, who's authorized to make that decision?
Yeah, and I think an area where MSPs struggle with is the amount of information that's coming to them.
Yeah.
On a daily basis, you're getting hundreds of notifications of vulnerabilities, patches, things that are going wrong. The Chinese have hacked into this co-managed service that I use. Am I impacted, right? So as a security team, I've always had the idea of how do we draw down and distill this so that we can say, hey, this is an event, it's making a lot of headlines, but guess what? You don't even run this in your environment. It's not something you should really worry about right now. This is actually more important to you because you have RDP open on 15 different servers, right? So
Yeah.
I get it. They're big bad, they're dangerous, but maybe
Is that a true
take RDP off the internet. It's actually a true story.
The RDP should be a drinking game.
There you go,
Patrick, one more
RDP.
point.
So I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second, because this touches on something we've been wanting to talk about. And Matt, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Okay.
This community needs to come together more from an information sharing and intelligence sharing and just a best practice sharing construct. We have, there's disjointed signal groups, not the one that made the newspapers. But point being is there's some really good models out there. The financial sector, ISAC, has an amazing model. It's been up for 20 years on how they do this. And I've given Matt the challenge, and we're gonna try to do something. And I'm hoping by IT Nation in November that we're gonna have something to show you from. And it's not going to be just a signal chat. It's going to be some sort of light infrastructure that we all, and I'm asking Kyle here.
I was going to ask, is this something like programmatic we can send each other
that
data?
we can sign up, that we can vet you, right? If you have a security point of contact in your company, that we can vet them to make sure they are who they say they are, allow them into allow them into that secure interface, and have a really free place, a safe place to share information, to share indicators, to share best practices. Because these disjointed chats aren't cutting it. You guys are owners and operators of critical infrastructure across the globe, right? This is needed, and you go across 18 different critical infrastructure sectors. Again, I'm going over time on this one, Matt, but I just want to get this out there.
No, you're good. We're on the next question anyway.
Yeah, so
you're answering what excites you.
Yeah, so that's what's exciting me, Matt. And no offense, I'll do this with you. So
what do we got for this next question?
So I think what we're talking about, so you heard things that are broken, things that are problems, things that we need to improve. What excites you guys moving forward? What are some positives? I think you called it a glass half full perspective, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, by far, if I think about our very first IT Nation Secure Together, there was a lot of well-motivated people, a handful of geeks, but look at the audience of the conversations are dramatically more, not just intelligent, but forward-looking. They are more technical when they need to be, but they're also process-oriented. So I'll take the easy answer for that one and just say, look, we've come a long way in a couple years. So that gives me hope. I think if we keep each other accountable, we'll be able to keep that. I just think also, and maybe I'll tee up one of you guys, the trends that excite me, the amount of new technology we're also introducing could make us take steps backwards while also taking steps forward. So that'll be exciting. What do you guys think?
That's a point. Yeah, and when I look at trends and I look at technology, obviously you can't get away from AI, you can't get away from automation, right? These are force multipliers if used correctly. Because Kyle's point, you introduce some new technologies,
made the point before.
And now I'm hacking your MCP servers, right? We have to really think these things through, but we can't live in a state where we don't want to make change because we feel like it's not secure. Our job as professionals and IT professionals is to look at risk and say, we know we're going to accept an amount of risk, it's going to happen. How do we minimize that risk over time so that we can introduce these things into our business to help productivity go up, to help I've seen CEOs on LinkedIn say, I didn't call my help desk today. I just did all the stuff by myself. I think that's pretty impressive, right?
Yeah.
Where you have someone who was very technical back in the 70s and 80s, now all of a sudden they don't touch a computer, now they're able to do things for themselves again.
Why you call me old?
We're elevating the status of a lot of people with doing that.
I mean, I saw Jay's post as well.
All right, so then on that note, it's where we're going with technology, right? It's not just ChatGPT and LLMs and being able to just look up data and see those things. It's not RPA by itself, right? Being able to build some automation and processes. It's really them coming together with agentic AI. I think at the end of the day, the ability to have the technology that exists today automate the human steps, but still require human oversight. And in a perfect world, not only human oversight, but then management oversight on decisions that are made. That technology exists today to allow us to move faster, move smarter, make the tier 1 or level 1 analysts more valuable in a SOC, allow an MSP to do more day in, day out, whether it be solving an IT problem or a security issue. The opportunity to leverage technology today goes so far beyond those things. Hyper-automation is everything we should be looking at. And look, we're at a security conference. The technology is there now to help defend against some of the craziest things that we see, and we can do it faster, we can analyze faster, we can make decisions faster, with more information, with community information, to be able to really say, hey, this is the right decision for this client, let's take care of them.
Well, you just hit it right here, right? And I'll give you an example. Threat research, it's very in-depth, involves a lot of steps. There's this whole concept of people using vulnerable drivers to disable security tools on endpoints and stuff, right? Our threat research team was able to take their own models to basically classify which drivers they think would be vulnerable. They did that without having to manually look at each individual driver. Now we're taking time that would usually take months, sometimes even years to do research, and we're dwindling that time down to a state where not only can they now say, we think these 145 drivers are vulnerable, but hey, TI team, go ahead and go look. If this is being blocked on anywhere, it's not being blocked anywhere, well, let's share this.
Yeah, but
let's get this community stuff out here,
but
right?
more important, and where it gets really interesting is that we can now also say, hey, in our case, Purple, look back and tell me if any of my other 150 clients have that same indicator.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we can look back and do it in seconds, and then build playbooks on how we're going to run forward. And that's where I think, Beggs, your idea of all of us working better together actually helps this community move faster, more secure.
Again, identify your security point of contact. Stay tuned for us to put this, this call to action out there. Again, I'll beat a dead horse here. It's community that gets me excited, and the power that resides in this room, and it's still untapped, right? So we have a lot of work to do, but people keep showing up and wanting to be part of it, right? And so as leaders in the space, and we'll challenge our CEOs as well, right? Is to support this, right, and to help push it forward, make it part of our critical path as success in our roles, right?
Yeah. All right, well, with that, we're out of time. So thank you to our panelists. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Nation. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot, Christian. Yeah. All right. Cheers.
All right, so we heard about a lot of things that are going wrong, going right, opportunities for change going forward, things that can be improved, things that we're going to improve. And speaking of change and things going forward and things getting better, let me welcome our CEO, Manny Rivelo from ConnectWise.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. So how's everybody doing? I promise not to be up here all day long. First of all, that was great. The panel was awesome. Hopefully you guys learned a lot from what the panel was talking about. You saw me place my phone up here, right? I want to give you a little story. Somebody in this room got hacked last night. They actually left, we went out to dinner. They left their phone next to me. I happened to pick up the phone and give it to Patrick, who was just on stage up here, and Patrick said, let me see if I could break into the phone. And within a minute, he broke into this phone, and then we just left him a nice, pleasant picture right in his inbox. So don't leave your stuff around, right? I mean, it's like, that's a typical example how easy it was to get into somebody's inbox, right? So we love this colleague. We're giving him a little security awareness training, but definitely don't leave your phone around, okay? So look, I've been in this industry for 12 years. The last 12 years I spent in security. I'm super excited to talk a little bit about it and talk to you a little bit about what we're doing as a company to assist here as we move forward. I've been now with ConnectWise for 8 months, and part of what we've been doing is how we focus the company in really driving this open ecosystem. And one of the biggest areas, and you heard it on stage, if you talk to an enterprise company or SMB, the stack they need for security isn't one or two vendors. It's dozens and dozens and dozens of vendors to protect them, right, from the attacks that are happening inside the world as we move forward. So the world is going through a lot of change. I kind of talked about this a couple of months ago. You might be familiar with this Industry 5.0 world. We're sort of living in a 4.0 world. I mean, you still have a lot of your end customers who are digitizing their environments. They're looking at ML, or maybe some of them might be even tinkering with a little bit of AI. They're using cloud-based services, and they're all looking at this 5.0 world, which if I would have 2 years ago got on stage and said, hey, you guys are going to be using AI, which maybe a show of hand, how many of you are using some form of AI? It's quite a few of you. If you haven't, start using it, because you will be using it. It's an incredibly powerful, powerful tool. This 5.0 world is a world where you will have AI, you will have this concept of agentic. Think about it, helpers. Helpers helping you run your business much more efficiently than you've ever run it before, to be able to increase your profitability and drive your business growth. And the reality of it is, you could read the challenges Inside your environments, you have lots of tools. You got maybe poor integration. You're reliant on human middleware to integrate all those tools together. And there's a better way of doing that. But that starts with the opportunity as you try to get from the 4.0 world to 5.0 world to begin to unify, simplify your stacks, simplify your platforms to drive more value into the market. And the market is massive. It's 4 to 5% of the worldwide GDP. I mean, it's a $5.4 trillion market, and the managed services is over $600 billion. And that is going to SMBs, 44% of that. So if you're wondering, how do I grow my business? It's right there. There's an incredible amount of growth. And as Peter highlighted, security is even a larger growth target for all of you. Now, here's a scary data. Maybe you didn't know this. Cyber, hackers, crime is $10.5 trillion this year. That is the third largest economy in the world. Only the US and China have a larger economy. Hackers are bigger than Germany, bigger than France, and bigger than many companies altogether. And look, I'm not here recruiting hackers or promoting hackers, but they get paid well, as you can see on the slide. So there's a lot of money to be made out there. And if you're in the security business, congrats. There's 3.5 million jobs out there, so if you don't like your employer, there's a place for you to go. So SMBs can't take care of this. There's just no way on earth. Technology is coming at a faster pace than ever before, and to some degree, this market continues to grow, even the harder part. So for all of you, security is your gateway to your customers. I'm very serious when I talk to partners. You know what my aha moment when I talk to an end customer? Get off the internet if you're not secure. Just get off of it. Because with the technology that's out there, they're knocking on your internet port. You probably already hacked and you might not even know you're hacked. So for all of you, yes, if you have a security portfolio, it's incredibly powerful, and continue to enhance that portfolio and drive it forward. And this is some data that you shared with us last IT Nation in October. 3,000 of you commented on it, and if you don't have any of these issues, you probably had them, or you're going through, and this is what MSPs are seeing right now as challenges. They can't get enough talent. They're concerned about cyber attack on themselves because there's this one too many. You are a massive attack surface. If they break into you, they bring it to every single company that you represent. And that's a great opportunity for ransomware and or for other forms of attack inside the market. So security is a major, major concern in everything you do inside your business. And we have a very simple formula, the way we're going to tackle this. We heard a little bit about the community. I kind of joked, I was talking to some of the partners early this morning, and it's kind of funny how we got into this MSP business. I kind of joked about it as if you're thinking you go back in time when you were graduating from school and you toss your cap in the air, you didn't go running to your mom and dad and said, I'm going to be an MSP. There is no place to learn how to be an MSP. It is you. It's the community. It's everything that we do collectively together to learn from each other to make ourselves better. So we will continue to make that investment. Peter did a nice job talking about it. I'm committed to doing that. We see it every day. We see the value that you generate among yourselves, and we're going to continue to sponsor that and invest in that as we go forward. The second thing is this concept of a platform. We've always thought that with so many tools, there has to be a simpler way of driving this. So I'm going to demystify this thing we call ASIO to try to break it down to what it truly is. This is the ASIO platform. You don't see an RMM in there. All it is, and I say all it is, it's quite a lot. It's a common scale-out data lake, because guess what? The more data you get into one place, the better you can make decisions with technology like ML or technology like AI. So we have a common data lake. We believe that there's a set of common services that we could build. There's about 40 services. You'll hear more about it tomorrow. And then what sits on top of that is the capability to do things like RPA, AI, et cetera. So that's it. That's when we talk about ASIO. And I think we've done this service confusing it a little bit. Now what we do is we have a set of modules. We launched RMM on ASIO last November. And our job is to take all of the other modules over time and bring them onto that platform, leveraging the common services on the bottom, and at the same time, open up the APIs to partnerships inside the industry to allow them to work better together, to allow you to get to this concept of hyper-automation, agentic technology, and all working to deliver your services to the end customers in a much more reliable, efficient, and faster manner. Now, it'd be really cool if I could stand up here today and talk about a bunch of products that we're launching, and there was a press release that we could drop right this second about the type of innovation we're doing. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen today. But tomorrow morning, and you're getting a preview, we're launching a series of things to the market so you can start to see the power of this platform come to reality. There's 5 things we're doing. There'll be 3 press releases, and some things are combined. The first thing that's combined is we will put PSA on ASIO, FCS, July. Nope, somebody was going to applaud. I heard it. Let it go. Right? The second thing we're doing, you told us, can you simplify pricing and packaging for us? So we have this concept of ConnectWise Pro, and there's a series of packages that we're building where we take the technology on ASIO and we make it end user based, device type based. So we're getting to common unit economics, very similar to your unit economics that then you resell or provide the technology to your end customers. So that is available. Second thing we're doing is we revamped our SIM. We knew it was time to revamp the SIM. We revamped the SIM, and it's integrated also in ASIO. So now you access our SIM technology from the ASIO platform, and actually the technology you're using for RMM on the agent will also pre-install any agent, the agent you need to make the SIM work. Super cool technology that's coming out to the market, really advancing that as we move forward. The third thing we're doing is the concept of the ecosystem is hugely valuable to us. So we partner with Microsoft and basically are looking at Microsoft's 360 business licenses with RMM, with other technology like MDR, and we're basically integrating their stack, their security stack with our security stack to enable things like Defender, identity, email, et cetera, and we're making that available via PAX 8, and it's the first of many things we're going to be doing with that stack to continue to harden that. And then the last part that's quite interesting that we're doing is we have 2 new SKUs that are going to be made available in the July timeframe also with Proofpoint. It's Proofpoint inside. You know, Proofpoint is the Magic Quadrant leader in email. One is just an email, ConnectWise email solution with Proofpoint, backing it up. And the other one is email with security awareness training, which this individual needs to take that I opened up with, right? So there's a lot that you'll see we drop tomorrow, but it's really, really important that you be here at 9 o'clock in the morning. And the reason is you're going to see the product team, Dave, Jeff, John, come up on stage and just show it all to you, as well as some other things that we're doing around automation, et cetera. So we continue to make this investment and bring that forward. Now, how many of you have the challenge coin? Has anybody done it yet? Anybody finished it? Okay, like you're supposed to be listening to the session. You shouldn't be working on the challenge coin. So if you were working on it the last couple of hours, this is the 6th year we've done this. So congrats to those that have done it. I'm going to give you a couple of hints, right? There's 2 ciphers on this. There's the outer one, which you'll see, which is basically a vinaigrerie French cipher, which is kind of an interesting thing because that was a very simple cipher that was created a long time ago, and it wasn't cracked for 300 years. But you guys are going to crack it, because it's crackable, right? And you can look it up. And the key for that is on the top of the coin. So that's the outer ring. And then there's a little bit of a little tougher cipher, which I got to give you the key. So I wonder how you guys cracked it without knowing the key for the inner one, right? It's Captain Crunch, just like the cereal, right? And that's an XOR cipher. So if you guys could crack that, I think for those that finish it first is a prize. So those that have finished it already, congrats, you won something. The rest of you, there's quite a few more that you could do this around the coin here, but thank you very much. And then look, I'll close by, first of all, saying thank you. Thank you for supporting us as a business. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for sharing among all of you. It is really important that when we finish this, you exit out the doors, you go left, and we have the pavilion there. We are there. All of our partners are there, and all of you should come in and have some cocktails and food with us. So thank you very much. Look forward to sharing some time with all of you, and enjoy the evening.
See you tonight at the welcome reception.